Hello, and thank you so much for choosing RTV News. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kigali, Rwanda. I am Isabel Masozera with my colleague
Sam Kalisa.
It is good to have you back on the desk. We've not done this in a while.
I'm so glad to be back, and we're together now on onwards.
Of course. Well, let's take a look at our top stories.
Southern Province residents say that local authorities should take a lesson from the two-day visit of President Paul Kagame to the Southern Province last week and solve problems affecting residents and avoid bad service delivery.
And with just 1 day left to complete the 5th population and housing census, the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda says 99% of the total households have been counted.
The Rwanda Basic Education Board has announced that within the next week, it will publicize the results for the candidates who competed. A very good evening to you once again, and welcome to Rwanda Television News. Now, news in the details.
All right, to our top story, Southern Province residents say that local authorities should take a lesson from the two-day visit of President Paul Kagame to the province last week and solve problems affecting residents and avoid bad service delivery. Now, residents thank the president for the opportunity to discuss issues that are hindering their development, stressing that they have full confidence that he will do what he promised them. More in this report.
Some of the Southern Province residents expressed their gratitude to President Paul Kagame for the time he gave them, and they believe that local leaders should take solid measures to solve the problems affecting citizens.
Abayobozi b'inzego z'ibanze bakwiriye kwita ku nshingano zabo cyane ko nta bushobozi baba babuze bwo gukemura ikibazo.
Local leaders should put more effort in fulfilling their duties, especially that they have means to do it. They have transport to get to the grassroots and address issues, as duties do not stop from the office. For example, there's no way you can explain how a person can win the case in a court, but local authorities fail to implement the final court rulings. In the end, such leaders disappoint the president because there is no politics without solving issues affecting citizens.
Ari umuriganya ari umunyamanyanga bakabafata icyemezo ariko nyakubaho we baramuvunisha kandi bamukorera akazi nabi kandi politike ntago ari kudakemura by'abaturage.
What I think this visit should teach local leaders and leaders in general is that, as the president always tells us, they should get close to citizens and solve issues affecting them, so that in the end local leaders can be the ones to solve those issues before they even get the attention of the president.
Problems should always be addressed from local leaders before they even get to the district or even to the court. The mayor of Ruhango district, Habarurema Valence, noted that the various discussions and advice given by the head of state showed that there is still a gap that needs to be filled in order to fully address issues affecting citizens.
The
discussions he gave us, the lessons and advice awakened us as local leaders on how we can always be quick to finding lasting solutions to issues at hand, not just in words. All authorities from the village level, the district, and the ministry should collaborate to solve issues that are affecting citizens. That is the important lesson we learned. Also, we are hoping to speed up our development, owing it to the infrastructure that the head of state promised us. What we will do henceforth is constant follow-up on the implementation.
ubona ko icyo dusabwa rero mu bijyana za nyigisho yaduhaye ni ukomeza gukurikirana.
The president's visit to some of the southern province districts was a good opportunity to present to him the problems that are still hindering development. In both Ruhango and Nyamagabe districts, President Paul Kagame promised that their requests will be put under consideration so that no area is left behind in development.
Ibisigaye ubwo n'izindi nzego zongera umurego zirusheho gufatanya n'abaturage.
Way forward, all authorities will collaborate with the citizens to solve those problems. In other words, the Kaduha-Gitwe route, for example, but also in other areas where it is clear that the absence of infrastructure hinders our development. I want us to work on it and solve it.
Haba hagaragara kutihuta dutera imbere, ndashaka ko tubihagurukira icyo kibazo nacyo tukagikemura.
The southern province consists of 8 districts with 101 sectors. The residents of the province expressed the need for infrastructure, including industries to process their agriculture and livestock produce, roads, electricity, and clean water access. Money talks, and when invested cautiously, climate conservationists believe it can change the world, but can it really? That is one of the questions my colleague Isabel Masozera asked Olumide Lala, the Director, Climate Finance Services, Climate Transition Limited, earlier today in an exclusive interview exploring the concept of green investing. Take a look.
Lara, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with helping us understand what is green investing and how can it impact Rwanda and Africa?
Simply put, green investing is actually investing in sustainable infrastructure, clean and green, but more importantly, investment in infrastructure that has environmental, climatic, and in some cases social benefits.
Right, and anybody can be part of it.
Well, it affects all our sectors, everything we do, from housing all the way through to energy generation, energy efficiency, straight through to agriculture, transportation, even waste that we take for granted. So, you know, all of this infrastructure that supports our daily lives, there are opportunities there for green investments.
Some have said that green investing can indeed save the world. It can save Africa. It can save Rwanda. Is that a marketing ploy or there is truth to it?
Well, look, saving sounds like a big word, but there are risks that we're trying to mitigate. So right now, obviously, if you think about the climate change and the impact it's having on the continent of Africa, either from coastal erosion all the way through to the desertification of the Sahara and various deserts that we have. Temperature changes, the temperature is currently rising, more so in recent times than before. And that's having a high impact on the land space itself. Not just that, our agriculture, arable land, and people migration. So, you know, there's clearly things that we need to do to arrest the impact that it is having on our society. Having said that, the investment we put into this infrastructure that needs development anyway. We need to industrialize Africa. It's the way in which you do it. So what we're saying is we need to do it in a sustainable way.
You say sustainable way, but can you help us unpack what that actually means? And also, while at it, the difference between sustainable and ethical investing, but if we can also touch the difference between dark and light green investing.
Oh, gosh. So if I start with ethical has always been with us. In terms of ethical, you make reference to things like religion, for instance. So, you know, Sharia investments, which will avoid things like tobacco, alcohol, weapons, and things like that. That's ethical. In some cases, there are some people who will not invest in certain things because they have impacts, negative impacts that they want to buy into. Yeah. So why promote war? So as such, don't put our money into weapons. So that's more ethical. In terms of sustainable or in terms of green itself, sustainable speaks to social benefits, environmental benefits, and climate benefits. Yeah. So the difference there is actually what you invest in that makes it either green or ethical, as the case may be. When you speak about dark or light green, I think it's easy to, by example, I will say. So if you're looking at energy generation, for instance, and you look at energy that is generated through solar, because it has zero emission, that is actually classified as green in terms of eligibility. Well, if you look at someone like gas, for instance, gas is a fossil fuel, which we're trying to get away from, but to some extent, he's as lower emissions, if you will, and could be a transition to green. So that could be considered light in some cases, but in some, you would argue, the eligibility would not fit in, and as such, would not be acceptable in the green space.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of big words for people who may not be familiar with this particular topic. But sometimes you don't need to know much to be involved. So let's talk about benefits. Let's talk about new technologies and untapped opportunities. And the big question here, is it financially viable for people to get involved, or is it just impact work?
Well, it's often said that the only money on the table right now is green. So it's certainly financially viable, but in order for you to tap into green finance, you've got to meet certain eligibility criteria. So what are we saying here? There are defined eligibility criteria that will attract green money, and there are certain new technologies that are considered green that you need to invest in. So if you can tap into the green finance, then clearly you will derive the benefits to enable you implement these new technologies that we talk about. But the technology that we talk about is not rocket science.
Yes.
You're talking about moving, for instance, in the energy space,
yes,
from gas or coal or kerosene to solar, yeah, and everything associated with that. Transportation, from moving from our normal carbon emission type cars that we have today to electric vehicles, or actually rail lines, or even transporting, mass transportation through buses and the likes. Agriculture, smart agriculture. So long story short is there are opportunities if you're looking from a financial perspective, but I think the place to put the money is the impact that it actually makes on our lives.
Yes. And that is Olumide Lala, the Director, Climate Finance Services Transition Limited. Back to you in studio.
Green investment to tap into climate change continues to be a hot topic everywhere. But Isabel, let me get back to the question. Do you really believe that green financing and green investing in general can really change the world?
Well, you heard it from the horse's mouth. He says the only money on the table right now is green money. And if you have money, why not invest it in a way that can guarantee a safe world for you, can mitigate the damages to your corporation if it is an institution, that can really lead to a much better world. So the things that he was breaking down, honestly, within those few minutes, he made a believer out of me. So I think it can indeed change the world.
Okay, back to work.
All right, now moving on, officials from Namibia and Zimbabwe who are on a benchmarking visit to Rwanda say that they want to observe for themselves how the country promoted the principle of equality and its transformation journey just 28 years after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Manzi Prince with the details.
Delegates from Namibia and Zimbabwe said they were amazed by the expeditious transformation of Rwanda's economy and also other sectors, including governance. This is Simon Masanga, leading a 20 delegates team from Zimbabwe, and Sylvester Mbangu, leading 20 other delegates from Namibia.
I was here 3 months ago, and I'm seeing new roads across Rwanda. We are also here to look at how you have managed to mainstream gender issues. We see a lot of Rwanda women in top leadership positions, and Zimbabwe is also doing the same. We want to make sure that we learn from ease of doing business where Rwanda has excelled, and we would like to put those into action when we go back home. So we would like to learn how Rwanda has managed to do it, but also how Rwanda has managed to make their economy resilient, but also to grow fast.
The United Nations resident coordinator in Rwanda, Ozonia Ogielo, states that there are a lot of skills that can be gained from Rwanda by other African countries.
My filter for determining the quality of potential for investment in any countries, your own citizens in the diaspora, do they have the confidence to come and invest back home? Are they coming home to say, I want to exploit the opportunities? If me, as a Nigerian, I don't have confidence to go and put my money in Nigeria, why should a foreigner come put their money in Nigeria? So that's the start. Let's begin by bringing our own back. That's what Rwanda has done. Young Rwandan citizens are coming from all over the world with nothing in their pocket, just their master's degrees. But they know that the system is there. The opportunities are there. They can register a company in a matter of hours, and they can leverage opportunities just to demonstrate their intellect. So at the end of this week, I'll be happy to hear from you when you're back home about some of the initiatives you want to take forward to transform governance and leadership in our respective countries so that we can continue to tell the Africa Rising story.
Ambassador Chen Ji-yong of South Korea and Rwanda, a state partner in this field study, states that Rwanda is a great partner with South Korea and appreciates how Rwanda is in an inspiring direction.
I also believe that Rwanda, one of our key development partners, is a leading country to protect the pioneer, the best practice in national policies and strategies for sustainable development. Its governmental actions have made progress to achieve poverty reduction and economic development under the National Strategy for Transformation toward Vision 2050. This strategy is expected to lay the foundation for decades of sustainable growth and transformation that will accelerate its move toward achieving high standards of living for all citizens.
The Chief Operations Officer of the Rwanda Cooperation Initiative, Rosine Rugeni, says that even though the delegations came to learn from Rwanda, Rwanda also learns from them in order to improve its services.
We receive many delegations that are coming for benchmarking visits, or what we call study visits. When they come here and they see some systems, some policies that we have put in place, and they are really inspired by it, and they really want a technical cooperation now, a more technical, in-depth cooperation with Rwanda. So we work with them, and we bring our experts in their country, and we tailor the system or the policies that they have been inspired by here in Rwanda to their own needs. And often we find that the systems that we bring and we work with them in their country are even more improved, are even better than the systems that they were inspired by here in Rwanda. So when we come back, so we really improve also our systems. So there is always something we learn in our partnerships and cooperation with other countries.
Since 2018, Rwanda received 400 delegates from 44 countries across the world in a field study work. 95% of them are from Africa, especially in the western part of the continent. Prince Manzi, RTV News.
Thank you, Prince. To health matters now. The Ministry of Health, University of Rwanda and administrators of healthcare training institutions have entered an agreement aimed at overseeing the training process and ensuring that cooperation between the entities results in adequate training of health workers. The employees comprise of professional doctors, nurses and hospital support staff. The Minister of Health has pointed out how necessary it is for them to acquire advanced skills and made emphasis of more effort that needs to be put in this front.
Byukuri hari harimo inenge zimwe na zimwe zigiye gukemurwa n'aya masezerano kuko
mistakes will be resolved with these agreements and having a written record entailing every organ's responsibilities, position them well with human resource. In 2020, it was decided that the Ministry of Health would take the lead in training healthcare workers in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. Everyone has a role to play for the smooth running of things, and hospitals have been tasked with overseeing the training process of their health practitioners.
Muri Minisiteri y'Ubuzima birumvikana ko bafite uruhare mu kwigisha uwo muntu uje mu nzego uje gukorera inzego z'ubuzima.
Furthermore, the Minister of Health has expressed the view that equipping healthcare workers with advanced skills reduces the odds of Rwandan residents seeking medical attention across our borders.
iyo urebye abantu twohereza hanze akenshi bagenda ku mpamvu nk'eshatu.
A quick look at our patient transfers would have three common denominators: organ transfers, remission checkups for cancer patients, and major surgeries. Very few doctors are putting in the work for this to be done internally, and those three factors are the reason we are investing in training health workers, which is inclusive of providing infrastructures and tools they needed for them to be adequate.
The Ministry of Health has pointed out that one of the goals they are working towards for the country's Vision 2050 is to increase resources in an effort to put Rwanda in a position to be sought for healthcare as well as participate alongside other countries in the medical hub.
You're still watching RTV News. Now, with just 1 day left to complete the 5th population and housing census, the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda says that 99% of the total households have been counted. However, some of the residents are still hesitant about being counted.
Mukeshimana Geraldine works from the Kagugu cell in Kinyinya sector. Due to the fact that she rarely stays home, she has not been able to meet with the census clerks so that she can be counted, yet the census is almost ending.
I've
not been counted because I'm always up and down, working, and my child got sick. I had to care for him until now. I want to be counted like other citizens. I don't know where they will find me because I don't have a home.
Many of the citizens say that they have already been counted because they fully understand the importance of the census.
I don't remember the exact date, but they came here. They asked about what we possess, what you do, your place of origin. They also asked me where I slept the night before.
The census started on the 15th and will end on the 30th of August 2022. It is expected to leave a picture of the country in terms of population and housing. Yvonne Mudenzi, the Deputy Director General of the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, explains that there are some challenges that the census clerks faced, even though they did not prevent them from reaching the rate of 99% of the total households to be counted, and that the results of the census will be announced before the end of this year.
Still have abantu bake ushobora gusanga nko mu gapande k'ibarura hari abantu nka batatu bo twakomeje kubura ntiduhuze.
There are a few people that have not been counted yet because they would not meet the appointment they gave to our census clerks. The other case is that some of the people have been hesitant, although they are very few. We are so far at the 99% rate of the census. According to the plan, all the data will be ready by the end of October or early November. It is expected that after the completion of the collection of census data on the 30th of this month, there will be an operation to control the data provided, and it will be carried out from the selected villages. The National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda noted that 99% rate is a high performance in terms of census, as according to international standards, the population census should not go below 95%. To education matters now. The Rwanda Basic Education Board has announced that within the next week, it will publicize the results for candidates who competed for the positions of public primary school principals, secondary deputy principals in charge of academics, and deputy head teachers in charge of discipline. Adam Squizera filed this report.
On Monday, candidates of the positions of public primary schools principals, secondary deputy principals in charge of academics, and deputy head teachers in charge of discipline started oral exams known as interviews. Candidates applauded the use of technology while taking on their exams.
It was well organized in this way. It took place online. We come on this center, we talk with the panel, which is not allowed on this center. So I myself have appreciated this kind of interview.
Say that it is the better one because the person can be interviewed freely without any complication. But the interview of the face-to-face, somehow it is not a good basing on different issues.
Regarding the issue of internet connections, the head of Teacher Development Management, Career Guidance and Counseling Department at REB, Mugenzi Naokuridjayoleo, noted that there was a very big issue, but it was immediately solved.
Big challenge we had since this morning, it was interruption of internet connection, but now I think everything is fixed now. And the candidates are very happy that they are now in contact with the panelists online.
Now Kuridjayo assures the candidates who are doing these exams that not later than next week, the results will be announced.
In publication of results, we use our normal system. We have normally different accounts for our candidates because every candidate has his or her account. So we will publish by Friday next week. We have all data and publication of results will be done.
On Monday, 955 candidates on the position of deputy principals in charge of discipline began these exams in their respective centers across the country. Then, they will be followed by the exams for the candidates on the positions of deputy principals in charge of academics in secondary schools and the public primary schools principals. Adams Kwizera, RwandaTV News.
On behalf of the entire news and technical team that made it happen and ourselves, many thanks for being with us on this particular edition of Rwanda Television News. My name is Sam Kalisa.
And I'm Isabel Masozera. Stay with RwandaTV.
Goodbye.